Hello everyone and welcome to the Scouse Scientist podcast with me, Holly Ellis, the Scouse Scientist. This first series is called But You Don't Look Like a Scientist, and I've got some amazing guest lines up who are in a range of STEM careers but don't necessarily fit into the stereotypical mould. My guest today is the amazing Laura Taylor. Laura is a biomedical scientist working in a histology lab in the NHS, and she's currently working on her specialist portfolio in cellular pathology and is also the co-chair of her Trusts LGBTQ Staff Network. She's participated in science communication and outreach since February 2020 and really enjoys showing how there's not just one set way to be a scientist. So, Laura, you are literally the perfect guest for this podcast. So, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you. That's really kind. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad. I've followed you for ages, and I love all your videos and everything that you do. I absolutely love it, and I appreciate how long it takes and juggling it with an NHS job as well. So that must be tough. But
Yeah.
to start us off, can you just tell us a bit about you, your background, and how you got into your career, please?
Yeah, so like I always tell people that it definitely didn't go the way that it was intended. I actually do like a presentation for schools and like I have this like path diagram, but it's been crossed out and edited so many times that I can't fit it on one single slide anymore. So when I was a kid, I really loved I loved history and I loved science and I really wanted to help people. So when it came to like picking my A levels, I ended up going down the medicine route because that was sort of the only career that people gave me after I decided actually I'll do the more medical route rather than history. But I didn't get the grades that I needed to get into medical school. And all I knew about biomedical science was that it was the backup for medicine. And that is something that I now, if I'd have known about biomed before properly, I wouldn't have applied to medical school at all and wasted all my money on the entrance exams and interviews. So I ended up going through clear into the University of Lincoln to do biomedical science. I did 3 years there as my undergrad. And then I did a master's. So my master's was in molecular biology and biochemistry by research. This made me think, maybe do I want to be in research? Should I do like a PhD? It was all very fast paced. Like I'd not even started doing my like research, my master's, and people were like, you should be applying for PhDs already. And I was just like, oh, that's quite intense, brilliant. But I ended up actually applying for a technician internship at the same university that I was at. Because I really liked all the lab demonstrators and we got on really well. And they said, look, there's this internship program that you might really love. And I absolutely loved that job. It was fantastic. But then my spanner in the works was the pandemic because my job was it was only 1 year and it was until August 2020. So I started thinking, okay, I'm panicking a bit. I've been furloughed. What do I do? What can I do with my biomedical science degree? Oh, I could become a biomedical scientist. How do I do that? So I applied for trainee BMS roles. I applied for like medical laboratory assistant roles and was lucky to secure my position in Harrogate. So I started there in September 2020. So uplifted my life and moved over to Harrogate and then worked my way up over the past 5 years from like a band 2 to a band 3 trainee BMS to where I am now for the past 2 years as a fully registered biomedical scientist.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's so inspiring for so many young people who maybe aren't quite sure what the career path is, or they've done a degree and now they're thinking, oh, actually something else might be more interesting, or like you. And I was the same. I think if you're doing like biology, chemistry, those A levels, medicine's like the automatic route that you get pushed down. And I was similar really. And I thought, that's the one everyone's heard of, but there's so much more that goes on. So could you tell us a bit about, because did you do an accredited degree? Because I didn't do biomedical science, but I know there's sometimes a bit of confusion of should you do an accredited degree? What's the difference? And what advice would you give on that?
So I did, but I didn't know that I was doing one until like a year in, which probably wasn't very useful to me at that time. But like when people say an accredited degree, they mean accredited by the Institute of Biomedical Science. So that is just if you want to practice as a biomedical scientist in the UK, your undergrad degree needs to have that accreditation. It cannot have that accreditation, but it just means that when you want to do your registration portfolio to then become a biomedical scientist, you'll have to do like top-up modules and essentially apply for UCAS again. And depending on how different your degree is, you might have to do quite a lot, and you most likely will have to pay for them yourselves. So it's like you might as well just go accredited in the first place, because then it just gives you those options. You can get accredited degrees by like the Royal Society of Biology, but again, it's not really needed for anything. Like there won't be any jobs that say you need this accreditation, but the Institute of Biomedical Science one, like you definitely do need that if you want to be a biomedical scientist.
That's such good advice, because yeah, I never knew about any of this until
No.
after uni. So I think if people know this up front, if you know you want to be a biomedical scientist, then yeah, getting an accredited degree from the beginning just will make
Yeah,
life so much easier, won't it, further down the
absolutely.
line?
Keeps your options open as well, because you're not going to get to the end of your degree and be like, oh, I have this accreditation, but it's not useful. Whereas if you did the other way around, you'll be like, oh, actually, I need that for something. So it's up like, yeah, you might as well if you're doing it.
Yeah, perfect. So you work in a histology lab now. So could you tell us a little bit about what goes on in a histology lab? I mean, I know the basics because with my training, I spent about 3 months in histology, and I found it so interesting. So can you tell everyone a little bit about what is histology and what do you do day to day?
Yeah, I love histology. I think that people find it the most interesting of all the places, because it's just great. Like you get to see so many different things. So histology
Yeah,
is just like, it's the study of the tissues and the diseases that and how they present in them. So we get samples that have been taken from the body. So this can be like, most people would know someone who's maybe had their appendix out or their tonsils out. But we can get the tiniest little endoscopy biopsies from the colon all the way up to full breasts and full colons that have been taken out of people. So we just get those, we dissect them and process them to remove all of the water from the tissue and replace it with wax. We then make little blocks and we cut slides from them, and then they all get stained. And I say we look down a microscope, we don't anymore. We've moved to digital pathology, so we now look at everything on a computer screen once it's been scanned.
yeah.
So yeah, we now do that and then send those out to the consultants so they can get the diagnosis. And I think like histology is so interesting because you then get loads of special stains and immunohistochemistry things that you have to do. And we collaborate a lot with different hospitals in the local area to like get that patient the best results possible. And it's just really interesting. And we do non-gynae cytology as well in my lab. So things like pleural fluids, urines, acidic fluids, things like that. So it's very interesting because we're quite small as well. We are very small as a as a lab.
Mm.
And as a hospital in general. So there's always something to do, and you get to see quite a lot of different variety as well.
And do you work closely with the consultants as well, with the doctors? Because that's what I noticed when I was in that short time I spent there, was actually how closely you end up working with, with the whole team. There's so many different people involved, isn't there?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. They're always in the lab. Like they'll come and have a chat with us. Like if you're working as a medical laboratory assistant, you'll end up scribing for them when they're doing the dissection. But then you'll find the relationship not changes, but you find other ways that you can connect with them when you become like a biomedical scientist and stuff. So, for example, because we're quite small, and this is something that I had to teach people who have like they came to our lab after working in a big hospital. For example, there was some special stains that they weren't the best, but with how long it takes to do them and then scan them, I was like, I can just go and speak to the consultant and go, I know these aren't great. Would you like them to be making the diagnosis while I start repeating them? And she was like, I can diagnose from that, it's fine. So it means that like we get to really have our really good turnaround times. It's something that we're quite proud of. And it's because of that like rapport that we have with the consultants and everyone in the team.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It shows how, like, within the NHS, we're always talking about multidisciplinary teams, but
Yeah,
it's so important. And at the end of the day, you doing that is getting faster results for patients.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, I talk a lot about the stereotypes associated with careers in science and the barriers that I had to overcome, getting told, oh, you don't sound like a scientist or you don't look like a scientist and all of that. So, did you face any barriers in your career or, in your journey to becoming a biomedical scientist, and how did you overcome them?
I'd say that the barriers that I felt like I had mostly weren't to do with any of the stereotypes. It's just maintaining that sort of has, like when you mentioned about like your accent and stuff, I've had that before. Like it probably turned down for so I can try and come across even professional in a podcast meeting, but my accent is very broad Yorkshire. And I've said things at work where rather than saying I can't remember what I said it, but I ended up saying like don't, or like don't matter for something. And afterwards my colleague was like, that wasn't very professional. And I was like, it's just how I speak. Like, how is that not professional? Did it change what was being said, or, you know, something like that? And we mentioned at the start that like I do I'm the co-chair for the LGBT Staff Network, and I'm supposed to have like 4 hours of dedicated time for that a month, and I only get 2. And again, it's only if we're fully staffed or if like my boss agrees to it. And sometimes that can be difficult because you wanting to like, you know, make these changes for patients and staff and make it a really good environment, but you're sort of not able to be supported fully to have that time just because of the environment that we work in, which can just be a bit just unfortunate, really. And then I think definitely when I'm out in public, I even subconsciously just get more imposter syndrome than like perhaps my male colleagues, just because I'm just like, oh, am I supposed to be here? Am I supposed to be polite? You don't want to come across as assertive when actually it's absolutely fine. And yeah, it's a lot of internalized thing that, I guess, has come from like years of thinking, you know, what am I doing here and is this okay? But the main barriers that I had like when I was becoming a biomedical scientist was literally just trying to get that trainee position because it's so difficult. So I just had to like wait 2 years and just really try and stick it out, to be honest.
Yeah, it's so interesting all the stuff you're saying because, like you say, a lot of it you say, you know, it's all internal. It's you know in
Yeah,
your head almost thinking, but it doesn't come from nowhere. It's come from
yeah,
our society and these feelings of what we as northern women scientists. I think we're just not showcased enough on TV and on the media, and
absolutely.
people think, a scientist, you've got to talk this way, you've got to speak with a certain accent to be taken seriously, but actually all of that is a load of nonsense as far as I'm concerned. And I try and tell
Absolutely.
everyone, be yourself and just be authentically yourself. And that's why I think my accent goes even stronger when when I'm doing things because I'm so adamant, like determined, like not to change. So yeah, I would definitely challenge the person who said you can't say it don't matter.
Yeah,
Um,
or I straight away he's like my work bestie, and I just went, I am not changing my accent. And he was like, it's just a bit unprofessional.
Perfect.
I was like, it wasn't though, was it? I said, absolutely wasn't. But
Exactly.
you,
And the thing is, it's not people's fault because people say that to me as well. And it's not their fault. They're not purposely, having this accent bias, but it just shows how these views are so ingrained in our
yeah,
society because everyone, who talks seriously on the telly, news presenters, scientists, everyone like that, anyone delivering any serious or important information often has a received pronunciation or what I call, a sort of
yeah,
posh southern accent. So people just aren't used to us northerners being intelligent and having things to say. And I think the more we can do that and use our voices, then hopefully by the time, younger people come to doing
yeah.
it, won't be quite as bad. But
No,
I
I fully
definitely,
agree.
sorry, go on.
I was gonna say I fully agree with regards to like the northern thing as well. Like I've got a little group of friends that we call ourselves the Northern Sci Gals just because we're 4 best friends and we all met on the internet through Instagram. We all do SciComm stuff, and we've had so many discussions about like because they were all in research about where the research funding goes and the fact that like it's just not north based. Like so much is London and all the opportunities are down there, and it just sort of creates this like bit of a north south divide like
Yeah.
bias almost. So and like when you were saying about the representation earlier, like I fully agree with it because it's like I work in a lab where, and I think a lot of labs are like this, and actually most of the students at university doing biomedical science are women. But then it's like if you look higher up, it's like who are the people in the higher bands? Are they all white? Are they all men? Are they all, cisgendered and
Yeah.
straight? And that's just sort of what tends to happen the higher up you go. So even though we're like loads of women, like loads of girls are doing science, and loads of women are doing biomedical uni, it's like, okay, but how many of them are then progressing like past the band 6 or band 7? How many are lab managers?
Yeah.
How many are being supported during maternity leave and things like that? And then
Mm.
that's sort of where the issues can sort of crop up more often.
100% agree. As you go up, the diversity just seems to decrease, doesn't it? Unfortunately, and it's a huge problem for science, for the NHS, for a lot of things. So talking about, your day-to-day job and juggling all your social media stuff, how do you manage to juggle your time and split your time? Do you get any time at work to spend doing any of your social media stuff, or is that all in your own time?
Oh, everything is absolutely in my own time. So I wouldn't do anything at work. I might film some things, like just because I can just leave my phone somewhere and film myself doing a task, or I'll more often than not stay after work, or I'll just try and get loads and loads of bulk footage to try and do it. It's something that I've slipped off a bit recently, but it's something that I want to get back into, is like just doing little day in the lives. And like, especially again, we're back to the accent thing. I used to get so awkward with doing voiceovers for them. But now I'm just like, do you know what? This is fine, because this is what I sound like, and this is what my day looks like. So I'm not lying. Like, so yeah, I try to dedicate a little bit of time a month to like making loads of posts and finding out what people want to do, or what people want to see, and like answering messages from people. But yeah, it's all on my own time, and I think that's why it ebbs and flows. I will never be someone who's like, I will post this on this day all the time. It will very much be flexible, because sometimes you have a day at work and you're like, that was awful, I'm so tired, I can't do anything, my creative juices are just gone. And you need that bit of flexibility. And I think especially because my whole social media is so linked to my job, that if I'm then spending hours on it at home, I'm like, did I ever leave work, in a way? Whereas I'm like, especially the past, I want to say year and a half, I've firmly come to the conclusion of like, actually my time at home and my time away from work is so important, and I want to fill it doing with things that don't make my mind think of like work and things related. So yeah, it's really taken some time and some active effort, but yeah, it's a lot better than it used to be.
It's so hard because I'm the same. So I'm NHS as well, and all of my social media stuff's in my own time. And I completely get what you're saying, because it's like you've got all these ideas and everything, but the
Yeah,
amount of time it takes to actually get things done, and then it's like you're in work all day. The only time you've got is, in the evenings, and
yeah,
then if you're carrying on working in the evenings, there's no time, and you can easily get yourself just run down and just exhausted from it all. So I'm the same. I try my best. I have times where I'm like, posting loads, and then I'll go a month and just be silent because I'm just
yeah.
exhausted from it all. But maybe, in the future, I think it's, using social media for outreach is a relatively new thing. So maybe in the future, hopefully, there might be jobs where that is part of the job, and then that would certainly make our lives a bit easier, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's definitely something people are becoming more aware of. It's like,
Yeah,
the Institute of Biomedical Science, like I worked with them a little bit to make videos like for us.
yeah,
And they've actually just started, like I saw it in their magazine like a month or so ago, they've got like an outreach bus that will be going to different events and stuff. So I'm just like, people are like, we're learning,
yeah,
we are learning, we're moving in the right direction. Because I still feel silly. Like if I'm filming myself doing something at work, I feel like people are going to judge me. And I'm just like, no, this is good. I've got really good opportunities from this, and I've made some really good
yeah.
friends, and it's just from posting this silly little video. Like,
It's
it's so
having the
awkward.
confidence. It's a confidence thing, though,
Yeah,
isn't it? Because I'm the same. You just worry, again, as women, you feel like you're going to be judged. But I saw a quote, and it was like, you get judged whatever you do. So
yeah,
just, do what you want, basically.
absolutely.
So, like I said, I've been following you for a while, but for those who are listening who don't follow you, why did you start your social media platform, and what's it all about?
So I started in like February 2020 on Instagram, because basically when I was doing my technician internship, we had this like portfolio to do alongside it, where you had to make a website. And as part of that, I was like, do you know what? I take so many photos at work. Like I took loads of them, because it was an internship and it was a technician job. Like I was doing bits everywhere. So I just took loads of photos and mostly sent them to my mum, and had been doing for years. My mum used to get so many microscope photos, and she'd be like,
Yeah.
what's this? And I'm like, it's cancer again, mum. That's what it is. It's so I just had loads of photos anyway. And I was like, I'm just going to start sharing what I do at work with regards to my job. And then, I think in 2020, like, especially when the COVID, like, the pandemic hit, there was just this big boom of like social media and people like actually doing things. And I was like, oh, maybe I should like speak a bit about my master's research, and I can talk about like breaking down those scientific subjects and stuff. What should I do? And it was at a time where everything was just a bit chaotic. So, and then reels became a thing, I think in, I want to say 2021 or
Mm.
2022, that became like a bigger thing, and that was learning how to do that. So you know, then when I moved to my job, like in the NHS, I just started doing things about, okay, maybe I'm actually going to use this page to be like, how to work in the NHS, what is biomedical science? And, you know, at first it was very much about people at university or A levels who want to do it. But then I would get some messages from patients being like, this has made me feel so much like less anxious about my biopsy that I've just had. Or like, my son's got this disease that you were just talking about. Thank you so much for talking about it, because no one does, and like it's not well known. And I was like, oh, actually, if I can make one person who's gone in for a biopsy feel better, then that's like the best thing that could ever have come out of this. So I just started doing more about what I was doing at work, and I used to share like loads of microscope photos and things like that. And now it's become more like, because I can't share as much anymore, so it's become more about like my days, and again just like about experience and stuff. And then I want to say maybe 2 years ago I started TikTok, purely because, and I think my friend did the same, because she was like, the audience on TikTok is younger, so if I'm wanting to target those people who are applying to university or who've been rejected from medical school, she was like, that is the platform that you should be going on. And so I started doing that, and just, yeah, it's just sort of try to do just what I want. I used to like making videos about like LGBT plus scientists in STEM, and like famous women in STEM, and, you know, different sort of areas like that, as well as just advice for people wanting to get into the NHS, interview prep, like things like that. So just a lot of everything, really. So if you're interested in anything to do with biomedical science, then please give it a check out, and hopefully some of it will be useful.
I'm sure it is. I love watching all your videos. I always watch them and think, oh my God, I wish I could do that, because I still feel like I'm the same. And I was learning with social media, and now I'm trying to do TikTok, but I feel like once, I don't know how old you are, Laura, but for me, because I'm above 30 now, TikTok's like, I need to get someone else, a Gen Z kid, to come and help me or something, because I'm just getting a bit clueless now.
I'm exactly the same. I'm 30 next year, and I'm just like, I don't know this. I don't know
Yeah.
what's happening.
Well, see, you're all right. You're in your 20s. You've got a year yet. You'll have to teach me. But no, I love everything that you do on social media. I
Oh,
think
thank
it's
you.
absolutely brilliant. And I think just you being you and showing your life and showing things like, oh, I haven't had time to post this month because of this
Yeah,
and that. Just showing a real woman in science
yeah,
is brilliant for young people, and young people who perhaps are LGBTQ plus, or are the only person in the family who's a scientist, or
yeah.
have a regional accent. I think, it's about representation, and I love that.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Like, but you know, my parents ask me, or then my dad will be like, he's so cute. He'll be like, "How's it going with the gram this week, Laura?" And I'm just like, "You're so cute, mine never changed." But like, my dad works in a plastic factory, and he has just moved back into like the science lab bit of it. My mum's like a legal secretary, so neither of them went to university. I was the first one in my family to go and do things like that, and they're so supportive. But I think it's just so good to be like not many people from my town all went to university. Like, there wasn't
yeah,
a lot in my year group. So it's just, yeah, it's just showing that anybody can do it. And that's why I always try and say that there's no set way to be a scientist. A scientist can be anyone.
yeah,
And it's something that I just really hope comes across, because it is true.
yeah, definitely, and that definitely comes across with everything that you post. So what is next for you? So you're working on your specialist portfolio. So what does that mean for people who perhaps haven't heard of that before?
So basically, in the NHS, if you want to move up the bands, there's certain things that you need. So to become a band 6, you need to do your like, in being a biomedical scientist, essentially, you have to do your specialist portfolio. So I'm doing mine in cellular pathology, because that's the area that I work in, but you can do it in microbiology, virology, loads of different areas. And it's basically just, it should take me 18 months. I'm hoping to finish next June or July. But it's basically just a way more intense version of the registration portfolio, because it's specific to the area that you work in. So there's loads of different modules about like tissue preparation, about specific tissue pathways, things like immunos, molecular, companion diagnostics, digital pathology, and AI. And there's also like a quality module as well, which you do. So I'm just chugging away at that in my own time. Like, it means I'm working with my training officer at work to get evidence signed off. And it just means that I can work as a band 6 biomedical scientist. When a job comes up, I can apply for it. And there's lots of different routes like that in the NHS. Like, you can do the STP, or you can do like apprenticeships, things like that, to get the modules that you need. And if you want to become a band 7, you can do a master's or a higher specialist diploma. So yeah, so at the minute I'm just focusing on the band 6 role. I've also like been working as the deputy training officer for the department for the past year. So I help the people who are doing their registration portfolio. So there's one girl at the minute who's doing it. So I'm like responsible for making sure she gets through, really. So yeah, I'm sort of focusing on getting her registered, and then hopefully myself the specialist next year.
Amazing. So there's literally, it's never ending, is it? The
Nope.
learning in the NHS. I'm the same. So I did STP, but then there's always, oh, you can do more and more and more. It just
Yeah,
never stops, does it?
absolutely not.
If that's what you're interested in and you want to keep learning, then there's always loads of opportunities for that.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
so final question is, what piece of advice would you give to any young listeners who want to follow in your footsteps?
So I just say, like, the thing that I always try and get across is that there's no set way to be a scientist, and a scientist can be anyone. And there is also no set way to the like where you want to be. It's okay for your path to change. You can change your mind a million times or have things thrown in front of you, and that is absolutely fine. Like, it doesn't make it less of a goal or less of an achievement when you get there. And it's absolutely fine if things change and you realize you love something better. And I will also always say to people as well, like, lift up the voices of those who, you know, like in minority situations, and especially in the UK at the minute, like, I'm very fortunate that I'm a bisexual woman, but if I was like at the minute, trans groups are becoming like just increasingly more targeted, and especially like trans feminine people are just sort of struggling, really. And as well, I'm very like, I'm in a fortunate position that I'm white, whereas people of color and disabled people are just sort of absolutely don't have the same opportunities, and there's still that inequalities. So always lift up the voices of other people as well, just because it needs to be good for everyone, really, is what we need to be focusing on. And hopefully we can achieve that someday. I really hope we do, but it can feel like a very scary time at the minute in the UK.
Yeah,
So just, yeah, we just all need to try his best.
I couldn't agree more. And I went to TEDx sides recently, like last month, and there were some amazing people, and they were all speaking about that. They were saying, all of the TED talks on that day were fighting for some sort of, against some sort of injustice or
Yeah.
discrimination or marginalized groups. And they were all different, but actually collectively, if we
Yeah,
all come together, if you're fighting for one reason, then you're standing up for multiple reasons, basically.
absolutely.
So yeah, I really like that. So thank you so much, Laura. I think that's been really amazing. I love your social media work. Don't put too much pressure on yourself if you need a month off now and again. I've learned to just,
Absolutely.
that's that's what you need, and then just do that. I'll put all the links to your social media on the podcast. But I really think you are so inspirational for so many young people. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, and I really hope that this series is super successful. It sounds like you've got some amazing people, so thank you for raising those voices as well. Like, it's really, really good what you've got going on here.